So we're back after a little hiatus for the last couple of weeks due to, due to Goffy's debacles. He's had an interesting couple of weeks, the Golf Monster, and it's led to our wonderful audience not getting to be able to see their favourite podcasts in the world, being the NRRRL Rap, Gingy and Foxy podcast. But tonight we've got some big announcements. The first one being that my usual offsider for the Gingy and Foxy podcast, the first time he's been unavailable ever in the history of the podcast, the Big Fox is no longer here tonight. He's taken a little vacation. He probably calls it work, but I'm calling it a vacation away from all those fun things like family, friends, and all those people that really care about him. He's taken a hiatus. He's down in down in the Big Smoke doing some study to be a school teacher. Some people have all the luck, but I'm here, guys. I thought, you know what, we're going to forge ahead. We made a few phone calls. We put the hand out, and we thought, you know what, let's get someone on tonight that's going to co-host for the first time in the history of the Gingy and Foxy podcast. And I'll tell you what, Mr. Fox, you better be on notice, because if this guy comes good tonight, do not bother ringing me next week, because I think it could be all ending from here, and it'll be a very new show. It could be the Gingy and the Mouth from the South, as is known by the Golfmeister. So we've got Dwayne. Dwayne, who, for those people that don't know Dwayne, we'll do a bit of an introduction. So, yes, as I said earlier, he is the official Mouth from the South, but just so everyone knows, he's actually not from the South, but that's just the name that he's been planted with. And you probably don't know him from physically seeing him, but you do know him from every week. He covers a game of the week for obviously Bar TV, our proud sponsor. And he's the guy behind the microphone. So this is a first for the whole viewing audience of the NRRRL game call and Bar TV call. Dwayne, mate, welcome.
Thank you, Benji, and what an intro that was. That was it was probably about as much time as I had. I got the call about 2 hours ago.
Was it?
About 2 hours ago. I was walking with my missus down at the Roo Park down at Coomera, and got asked to join on. But we were supposed, Les. It's a shame that he can't join us. And I wonder if it's that same reason why Elon Musk and Donald Trump had their setback yesterday with their chat. So,
mate,
who knows?
Yeah, well, mate, it could be. It could well be. So I've got another technical issue here. For apparently, now I'm all good. Continue on, brother.
Yeah.
So it's the Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Escar Bay, Fox.
May have come to the
technical issues. Maybe the only thing missing, Dwayne, talking about Trump is, you know, he's in the Big Smoke. We don't know, but he's planning to be a school teacher. But at the end of the day, the bullet has gone past him as well. So he's not here tonight.
I'll leave it at that.
Shaved, missed him. We do know that he survived, and the other thing is, the reason he was actually going to be planning to come on tonight, by the way, audience.
Yeah.
But he's had some, what would we call it, Dwayne? Technical issues?
Yeah, we'll just go with that. Technical issues. Yeah, but I'm sure wherever he is, he'll be watching. And don't worry, Les, your job's safe. As I said, I'm coming in head first.
Yeah, well, mate, I want you to
go.
Listen, honestly, I want you tonight to go all out and see if you can own a spot, mate. And you never know. I mean, it could be a trio instead of the duo. And you know, that's how we may roll between now and next year, because we do know, and we're going to talk a little bit about this towards the end of our podcast around the new direction of the competition beyond 2024, from a whole range of different areas, particularly though given the fact that we're going in a new direction from the competition's perspective around the way the game is going to be managed, which is going to be interesting, not just for us, but it'll be interesting for the way the clubs sort of, you know, play that out. It'll be interesting from, you know, what the vision will be for the competition moving forward beyond this season. So yeah, so it's going to be interesting. We'll have a chat about that. It's actually called, just so everyone probably gets a bit of a heads up. It's the morph from the NRRRL into the Rugby League Northern Rivers. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that, which is
Sure.
and I've just been informed tonight that through you, Dwayne, that it's the first time people may have heard that when we mentioned it on the podcast here. So it could have been breaking news around the competition. But we'll talk about that a bit later. But as we do, mate, as we normally do in the podcast, we've got a few segments that we like to get through, and I'll be bouncing back and forwards to you to get your insight, because I think your read on the game, obviously you've been well versed in the technicalities of I suppose calling a rugby league game, which for me, I had the pleasure last year of doing it with you a couple of times. I think once up at Balambal and then again in the grand final.
The GF,
This time I've been able to hopefully, I suppose, repay the favour by having your input tonight in this wonderful podcast.
Yeah, well, it's good to be on the other side of the fence for once, and so I'm all yours, Benji.
Thanks, mate. And again, for all the viewing audience, for the people that don't know, Dwayne is the guy behind, or the voice behind, I should say, the calls of the NRRRL and other competitions. He's had a brief stint, I think it was at the start, at some stage through the year, Dwayne.
In Brisbane, I've done did a couple of games in Brisbane this year. One of those two games was a few months ago. Just like we have tonight, I was on very short notice, not even 3 hours. I think I was out shopping with my missus, Runaway Bay Shopping Centre, and I get the call up from the guys at bar saying, unfortunately, a bloke who was doing it had a car accident on the way to the game itself, and so that being said, I grabbed my gear and went up there. So that's just what happens when you're in this commentary game or just in media. You do get the call up on short notice, and you just got to be ready. I literally came home, grabbed my gear, and I was before long and behold, I was in Brisbane. So
I'm hoping you're right, because you never know our luck, mate. If we do this all right tonight and it comes out pretty good, who knows, we could get a call up next week to the Matty John show. So I think that'd be massive for the both of us, but we'll see. Well, Fox won't be coming because he can't even turn up tonight. So, Johnsy, we're up, we're available, both me, Dwayne, one phone call, that's all you got to do, or contact Mark at markgolfmedia.com, and he'll no doubt hook us up, and we'll be down there in the studios down at Fox in Sydney. So
happy days.
Let's cross the fingers on that one, Dwayne.
Big event toes.
Finish a year. But that being said, mate, we've got a few segments, as I said, we've got to get through, and then we'll come back and we'll unpack. I'm really interested in talking to you tonight about how you got into the commentary game, but more importantly, obviously, your interest in the game of rugby league itself, where it started, your journey. Just so I think, and it's always good for the viewing audience to get to unpack people that they probably don't normally come into contact with at games, and we want to get a bit of an insight, if you don't mind, about you with you.
Sure.
But before we do that, we're going to jump straight into probably some of the most important reasons we're here, and that's to talk about football. And in doing so, we want to have a look at what we call our segment that we've got here. Duana's called Around
the Grounds.
The Grounds. Welcome back now. Here you go. We're back now for Around the Grounds. We're going to jump straight into it, Duana. So I'm going to just go through the results from the weekend, and just so the viewing audience are aware. The weekend's round was not round 17, as some people like to call it over the weekend. The weekend's round was actually a catch-up round. The washout round 5 games being played post the round 16 games. So, interestingly, there was a few games on that weekend. I'm interested how these results panned out, Dwayne, and I'll be interested in your view on this. I mean, going back in time would be a wonderful thing, and if we're able to play the games at the given points, I don't know whether some of these results would have been the same, but there were some really interesting results for this factor in itself. You know, I know. Most of the competition probably know that this was actually called a round of death. For the most people that didn't know, there was 3 teams vying for one spot. Actually, 4 teams vying for one spot, being Northern United, Byron Bay, we had Mullumbimby, and we had Murwillumbah.
Outside chance was Murwillumbah,
for the 6th spot in the final series. At that stage of the game, Northern United was sitting in 6th spot, for and against only, equal on points, with Mullumbimby at the time, followed by Byron Bay, and we want to have a good chat about Byron Bay too, by the way.
Yeah.
And the other team obviously was the Murwillumbah Mustangs.
So,
mate, before we get into the results, I'd be interested to hear from your point of view going into that round. What was your thoughts about going into that last round, or round 5 catch up?
Well, it was I had 3 different browsers of Bar TV on my phone because I was calling your game, Benji. So we had the later kickoff, and so I think all I was doing was after I set my gear up, I got there early, earlier than usual. I normally get there about 2 hours before a game, so I got there even 3.5 hours, because I knew what was about to come, and part of my prep is what was happening at the other grounds. So I was basically score checking every 5 minutes and pretty much doing nothing else. And so first up was
sitting up in that wonderful ground. You could let me
know. Yeah, up at Crows Road, which is my
coach a game. Didn't know any of the results. Guess what?
Yeah. So, which is actually the first time I've called a game at Crozier since being done up. So that was probably the other thing I was doing, was checking out the new facilities. Used to have the box there where I've done all
you didn't get to use it on the weekend.
No.
But there is a media box there.
I know.
I think in the future where you'll be set up. So.
Yeah, well, they're legit. Like, hopefully next season we'll get to sample that new box. We'll need the proper.
Well, we may not wait till next season. I've got to throw a spanner in the works at the end of this podcast, so we'll see where we go with it.
All right. No worries.
So going back to that, mate.
First up was Casino Bilambil, and you'll look at the results: 64-6. The Jets getting up. Yeah. Who I think Jets have been a bit hot and cold, finishing 4th, and so. But with the highest for it against in the competition. So when they score points, they score plenty of points. So when they're good, they're good. But just been a little bit up and down in some of their games. They lost a close one against it. Yeah, so worth mentioning too, Casino did score their one and only try early in the match. So it was 6-0, and I was thinking, okay, maybe the upset's on. And just to give you an idea about how my prep is too, so I use a tablet, so I've got teams on it, and I've got the ladder, and I have half of that spreadsheet is all the different scenarios that were in play for each team. So I think Norm, you guys were like only 2 or 3, because it was pretty simple. It was either 6 or you're basically going to be out. But I think Bilambil took up some pages, but Evans Head took about 10 rows. What could happen if, and Casino Bilambil, that result hinged a lot on that. So it was actually quite relieving that they kicked off first and they were finished before the game that we were involved in finished up, because I could then just went delete, and it became a lot simpler when the other games finished up. And then by half time, I think I was saying in commentary, and I didn't want to say it too loud so you could hear, because I knew you had wanted to
coach your team.
Coach your team. If I had said, Northern are still going to be in the finals, win, lose or draw, I think I said in the first half, because I was actually score checking, and my offside at Lindsay I had for the day was giving me results as I was calling. So it became by 1 o'clock, beginning of the day, there was about 20 different scenarios at play. Yeah. But by the time a half time came with the later kickoff, it was done. It was cement. So it was interesting.
Part of my conversation in the sheds was, this could go either way today, guys. We could go out there and play like champions and just own our own spot, or we could all be coming into the sheds after the game and looking at our phones for results.
Yeah.
The thing that
that's
I didn't
exactly right.
factor in is something what you've just said, which is I suppose, looking hindsight's a great thing. Even though we were playing the later game, I totally lost focus on the fact that we were playing an hour later than everybody else, which means that most of those other results were going to be, fait accompli, one for a better term. But that didn't happen, and because I'd been so focused on coaching a team to go there and give their best and try and get a result outright, unbeknown to myself, 5 minutes, 10 minutes into our game, those results were already there. So, that being said, mate, I still think there was a lot riding on that game, and it was. And
it felt like, and I said this in the commentary too, BNG, that it felt like an election night coverage. It really did. Like you go out and vote, and then you have the anticipation of what's going to happen and what's happening with the swing to a certain candidate, and it's had that feel to it.
Yeah, it did.
And so then eventually, by the middle of the Northern Evans game, it became bang. We have our result, and then you've got to try and fill in the next 40 minutes. So that was my prep. So, exactly. Which that's what I said. Like, commentary is also unplanned. So I spent the whole week planning for all these scenarios, and then. Because I thought we were going to kick off the same as everyone else, but then the Evans game started at 1:15, the rest started at 2:45, we were on at 3:45, and I thought, well, that's good, but then, because then it takes my anxiety levels down, and other thing is too, when I've done about nearly 300 games of football, I still get anxious as I did for my first game, so...
I used to know those feelings. Now I think from a coaching perspective, it's a bit of a difference. It's a bit of a different scenario. But I mean, at the end of the day, a wonderful round of footy. You've mentioned it already. The result that pretty much, I think, cemented a spot for Bilamble. I know there was probably whispers of an upset, but Casino's back into the season wasn't the greatest. They had a couple of losses, I think, there throughout that back phase where that really sort of took them out of that opportunity of playing finals footy. That being said, Bilamble, got away with a really good win, very comfortable in the end, and then I come through, from what I'm hearing, very unscathed. And I know they had a wretched run of injuries, but a good win to Bilamble. And then obviously, I want to probably have a talk about this game at the end, so I'm going to flip straight to the Tweed Coast Kyogle, which was pretty much a no result, given a win or a loss to either side. I think a 22-10 win to the Tweed Coast Raiders. I think Tweed Coast Raiders are going to go away from this whole season and unpack their season and sort of say what happened.
Exactly.
And I know their coach, Kitey, who can be very animated on the sideline as much as me. I just think there's going to be a few things to mull over in the off-season about the good, bad and otherwise, because I think at the start of the season, I'm happy for you to comment on this one too. At the start of the season, mate, their lineup gave every indication they were going to be a top 6 side. Yeah,
and you look at their for and against. I think I don't have the ladder in front of me now, but is that still in the green? Their for and against.
I'm pretty sure.
I've actually got the ladder in front of me here. 8. So you tell me how many competitions where the team that finishes 10th has a for and against in the positive. It's just unheard of. But the unfortunate thing for them, BNG, was that they knew for some time now that they were probably going to be out of reach for finals for the past at least 4 to 6 weeks. And the sad thing is too that a lot of their defeats were very close. And
a lot of those defeats that were very close were against the Tweed teams.
Yeah, and also too, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that game against Kyogle, was that their first home victory? Or no, they actually beat Tweed. They beat Coogin. They beat Coogin. They beat Coogin.
And if anyone knows about that, I definitely do, because our record would reflect exactly the same thing.
I said on the CRL show with the boys down at Bar about a month ago. I predicted them being party spoilers, and they beat Coogin, they beat Ballina, they beat Byron, and if Byron, if you're going to make the top 6, and no. This is not a knock on Tweed Coast, but you got to beat Team 11. when you're on that run to the finals, because that every other team that they were playing against was in the 6. So if hypothetically, now we're saying in hindsight, if Byron win that game against Tweed Coast, they're on 19, and we're having a whole different conversation altogether. But
I really want to unpack the later.
Yep,
but we'll get on to it here now, mate. We want to look at the next round. The game was a game that was on the knife's edge, which was Mullumbimby v Coogin. I can tell you right now, if media gives any indication as to the confidence of a team, then whoever wrote the story for Mullumbimby over the weekend obviously didn't give Coogin a hope in hell. Unbeknown to whoever wrote the story, Coogin were coming second in the competition by one point. So, look, I think Mullumbimby had a great season. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It was a massive ask, regardless, to come out in a game that Coogin were playing to stay in second spot. And have that weekend off, which they'd fought pretty hard all year because they were written off at the start of the season with the number of players that had left the club, injuries. The rumours have it that the club was in an absolute, having a nightmare up there. But mate, credit goes to where credit's due. They've last year's premiers, they proven, tried, tested, and come out with a great result on the weekend to pretty much end the dream of the Mullumbimby Giants. They pretty much, the only way to put it is, they slayed the Giant.
Well, yeah, and just that, and like, I think I've done 2 of their games this year, but towards the early end of the season, and they're a team that, like, they love to be underneath the radar. That was probably, of course, I didn't make the finals this year, but they would. One game I did against Byron Bay, I think it was round 4. I think it was round 6. They were down. I think it was 14-0, and with 10 minutes left to go. And I thought, okay, Byron, this is their game to lose. But then Mullum come and score 2 tries, bang, bang. And there was about 5 minutes left. And they had the chance to win the game. And I think discipline, just like a lot of little things. As I said, Tweed Coast, you could probably put in this basket too. And maybe Casino as well, those teams that were in the middle tier of the ladder. But Mullum, they can be proud of this year. They're only going to get better.
I think they can be proud of this year, Dwayne. You're 100% right. The bigger thing for me in that Mullum, there's I think a lot of positives to come out of their year. The key factor for them now is what can they build on over the off season. Obviously, their coaching ranks. Well, let's just say the coaching ranks for the Mullumbimby Giants this year was the best in the state. Given the fact of the heights that Chris Anderson has reached, he's Australian coach, Bulldogs coach.
They fought well as well too, Benji.
Been involved at the state level, but he's pulled a group of players together that, let's just say, they're not. No one knew too much about them at the start of the season. I can guarantee you, at the end of the season, everyone, anyone that played against Mullum this year would be going, they were tough.
I'm just having a look at their lineup that I had on the weekend, Benji. Credence Kelly Dolliman's the name I'm familiar with, and they must have bought him late because he wasn't there when I caught. Yeah, but I'm familiar with him from the Northern Rivers Titans. Yes. Tweed Seagulls, he had a bit of time there, I think, in the juniors. Yep. Kai Cooper, ex-Ballina player, I think he was. And they, just as well as a few mix of Mullum veterans as well, and even a bloke that we're very familiar with, Wade Kelly, even popped up here or there when he wasn't playing.
Cody Nelson. Let's just
and him too.
I think Cody Nelson, between you and me, Cody Nelson will go down as one of the Mullumbimby greats for a whole range of reasons. We all know that he's tasted what it's like at the highest level. But more importantly, he's come back. He keeps himself in bloody good shape. It's to the point where I know when we played him this year, we jumped out on him. We got to an 8-point lead with 12, 13 minutes to go. They came back and they beat us by, I think they beat us by 8. But in saying that, Cody Nelson looks like he could play for another 10 years. Like,
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously,
and
he's probably thinking when he sees this podcast, Benji, just absolutely wake up.
Well, there must be someone out in the water out at Mullen, Benji, because he's not the only one. I'll give you another name, Billy Headich. He bleeds blue and gold, blue and white when it's NRRRL. He follows the doggies, but I used to work with Billy, where we worked in Byron, and I think he was talking about retirement. That was in 2018-19. It's now 2024, and he's still lining up for for the Giants. And he had a bit of a streak going in there too, Benji, that whenever he had a match of the round, I think the streak's broken now, but I think there was 3 games in a row when I called one of his games he'd score, and he never scores any other times. He's big front rower, so Billy Headich, just knows how to score tries when I'm behind the mic. So
I think that all being said, mate, it's been an absolute brilliant year for the Mullumbimby Giants. Don't be disappointed in. I mean, look, disappointed, but use the disappointment to see where that can project you into the year.
And next year, Mullum, Casino, those teams, they'll be nipping at the 6 again next, and I think one of them will probably be there. If not both of them, we'll see.
Yeah. So, mate, this has got to be one of the most highest scoring last rounds of football I've ever witnessed. I couldn't help myself. I actually had to go back on Bar TV and have a look at it because I thought it can't be right. Wollongbar Mustangs versus Lower Clarence. 40 all. 80 points scored.
Yeah.
40 to 40.
40 all. I did say that in the...
Up at Wollongbar too.
Yamba.
Was it in Yamba? There you go.
Yeah, it was at Yamba. I was getting texts from the guys at Bar giving me live ladders and stuff, and I was about to say to them, I said, who's knocked off on this Sunday? Is that score correct? Is someone just having a lazy Sunday? Whoever it is, they probably need to... Yeah, but I mean, 40 all, that's good. That has to be some sort of record where a team that scored the most points and not got the full 2 points.
Yeah.
I think that honour goes to Casino, where they haven't won or drawn, and that was this year too, where they scored 34 against Ballina a few weekends ago. So that's probably the record of not winning, but that's got to be that has to be the record where if you get 40, you usually win, or you hope you do. But I'd almost be willing to have a look at the record books in statewide, if not nationwide.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, we're talking AFL numbers there, Benji. You
well,
don't get those scores in AFL
puts an old
anymore.
adage to the old cricket score, because both teams scored pretty well if it was cricket.
Well, who kicked the more 6-pointers?
So the other game, obviously, that played itself out on the weekend was the game that we both spoke about at the start, which is the Northern and Evans game. Look, we know it was played in pretty dour conditions, but so was the whole round. 38-12, Evans Head cemented their spot, 3rd place. Were pushing for a 2nd place finish. Should have Coogin had been rolled by the Giants. So, you know, look, being the guy on the other side of that ladder, or the other side of that scoreline, coaching wise, obviously, look, to be brutally honest, Evans Head played a brilliant game of football. They've got an absolute brilliant forward pack. Their outside backs really stood up against the Northern outside backs. I think the first half was pretty close. I think it was 16-4 at half time. And we even gave ourselves a chance in the sheds, and we talked about, you know, what we needed to do in that second half to try and get, the jump, I suppose. Look, I did know post the conversation in the sheds at half time, which was pretty hard for me to keep my boys up, because
I was going to ask you.
We didn't have that
question.
The players didn't know.
Knew.
No, I knew, but the players didn't, and I made a point of making sure that the other people that knew kept that pretty much to themselves, because we still had 40 minutes of football to play.
Sure.
It would have been easy for me to make some alternate decisions around resting and all that sort of stuff. That didn't happen. Look, long story short, Evans Head, deserved winners, played well, coached well, on a hot streak, I think that was their third or fourth win back to back.
Fourth in a row.
So 4 in a row, yeah. Obviously going into finals, they're the sort of, that's a form you want to maintain, and that's projected them in the third spot for a finish of the season. Going back now to one game that we didn't mention was the Ballina v Byron Bay game, to which everybody, and I mean everybody in the competition, is asking this question. 28-16 win to Ballina. Ballina had definitely a show of players that were coming back post injury and all the other bits and pieces. They've built into the last three weeks, particularly. I know they've had a ravaged season with injury, but they seem to get a couple of players back on the weekend. The result, 28-16, sayonara, Byron Bay.
Yeah.
5 weeks ago. Let's put ourselves 5 weeks back.
Yep.
They were leading this competition.
Oh yeah, top two, and I even said this in the CRL show too, that I predicted that they were going to take a slide. They're front, mate. They won 6 in a row at the start of the season. Yeah, but I also said on that show too. But you look at their games. There's two that stand out. Well, firstly, that game I called against Mullumbimby, 14-0, 10 to go. You don't let it. It shouldn't have been close from that point. And certainly shouldn't have allowed Mullum to have a chance. They were literally like this close to winning the game. And there was a couple of other games. The game against Casino, I remember watching that one at home. And they just didn't look comfortable in that game. And they again another game they should have put away. Then there was another game against Kyogle, 22-10. There was no points, or not many points scored in that second half, or at least the last 30 minutes of the game. So it was 22-10 with half an hour to go.
It's interesting you say that, Dwayne.
Yeah.
I know, I think it was round 3 or 4, Northern, we played down there at Byron.
Yeah.
They jumped out on us, I think it was 20-4 at half time, and they looked brilliant. They had a big pack of forwards. They played outstanding football that day. We walked in the sheds and I could see the looks in our face. We were in a bit of shock. We were just going like, what the hell's going on here? We came back out in the second half and we actually got it to 22 all. At one point, and then they, I think there was a penalty goal in it in the end. And I think we just went down, but I thought, oh god, that for me also showed that Byron, in their good patches, were brilliant, but they were never great.
Yeah, and that's and I said this a couple of weekends ago when they played Coogin. It seems like they always have one of their feet in quicksand, because it's best way to describe it was a couple of years ago when they played Evans Head in the semi-final. Yeah. They were up 24-0 with 24 on the clock, and they only won it by 2. Yeah. So
the week after they played Evans again. That was the semi-final,
and it was the other way around too.
It was the semi-final series where they played each other twice, back to back, and the second time was the elimination final, and Evans came out of the blocks that day. I think it was the Trevor Bolt, Michael Roberts show. So it was an interesting way. But as I said, probably the talking point of the competition, the back end of a 5-week window of consistent not being up for a team. 5 weeks prior, that was leading the competition.
Yeah,
again,
and
you could probably go back in New South Wales Rugby League and find might be a little bit of a record in that. Has there ever been a team that's been, leading a competition all year, 5 weeks out from round 16, have 5 losses in a row and go out the back door?
And I also think, though, it's worth mentioning, though, it just goes to show how close the competition really is and how much you got to be on your game. Because that 1-6, even at that time, it was very narrow. So I knew that if Byron, they needed to win 2 of the last 6, which unfortunately they didn't. They won 1 of them. And that's why I was saying about 10 minutes ago now, that game against Tweed Coast was pretty much nearly make or break, because and calling that game actually against Tweed Coast. It was one of those very topsy-turvy games. Like Tweed Coast in the first half with a better team, but only leading by 2. And then Byron in that first quarter of the second half had pretty much the entire football up the Tweed Coast red zone. But then Tweed Coast scored 2 tries in 5 minutes. So I just think it's a confidence issue for Byron. They've certainly got the players there. Because you've got to remember, a lot of these boys that were playing in this A-grade lineup have won grand finals in the lower grades before. So
it's a big learning curve, as you said, Bob.
Yeah.
I just think for me, the other thing too for Byron to consider, and I know there's probably going to be a lot to consider post the season they've had, but one of the bigger things that probably comes into this for Byron is we could never walk away from the age factor, but blokes like Todd Carney and the whatnots aren't getting any younger.
Yeah.
Maybe that's starting to tell its. Maybe that's Todd Carney's story for the Bay, which happened 5 years ago. It's actually nearly 5 years since that whole scenario. There hasn't been much success in that, and maybe it's time that the Byron guys start to have a look from that developing pool of young kids they've got coming through to sustain a good season. Maybe there's going to be a lot of questions asked, and maybe both you and me aren't the people to ask the questions. Well, we are going to ask the questions because it's rare. You very rarely see a team leading a competition 5 weeks ago.
Well, I'll try and I can see where you're coming from on that regard, but to say, look at it. We're following being from Byron originally myself. Byron, before Todd Carney came into the picture back in 2019, Byron couldn't even. They were struggling to even put 17 out in A grade. They certainly didn't have a reserve grade. And 18s, they didn't really have anyone representing the Northern Rivers Titans. So I guess if you can take one positive of Todd Carney being there, it's...
development.
Yeah, development. So he's given all these younger players an incentive to play for Byron. Now, a lot of them are not from Byron. A lot of them are up here on the Gold Coast. But they're still willing to play for him. Because the other options in Byron Bay, you've got Byron Bay Rams soccer, you've got the Trojans in rugby, and that's Byron Bangalow as well as the Lennox Head Trojans. So it was there was no incentive to play for the Red Devils, or very lack thereof, because Byron is not exactly the cheapest place to live, I know, personally. And so a lot of people are having to come from other towns or even as far as the Gold Coast. I think one of the boys even come from as far as Sunnybank to come and play for Byron Bay. So Todd Carney...
The amount of commentary you're getting lately, you'd be able to buy Byron. Mate, I'll tell you, it's going to be interesting to see how things move forward, because I'll tell you why. Things are going to get tougher for the Bay for these two reasons, and then we'll move on to what's coming up in the semis. This is the factor. Yes, we can talk all the football and all the other bits and pieces, but this is going to have an effect on the Byron Bay club, whether we like it, lump it, or otherwise. It's going to be a factual thing. Byron Bay have not just lost splendour into the future, they've just lost the Blues Festival.
And the Blues Fest, yeah.
So you're taking the two biggest ever events that most Byron sporting clubs get on the back of and become a big money spinner. That's going to have an impact, mate.
And here's the other thing too about Byron Bay. It's like they, as far as the club's concerned, they're a victim of their own success. And I said this on the down at the CRL show as well, that look at Taylor Withington, look at Jesse Zorich. He's playing for the Warriors at the moment. Their halfback from last year. It's once they start, becoming, reaching their peak or even below, not even their peak. They're getting snapped up. The black book comes out, their names are on it, and before the ink's dry, they're already playing State Cup. So they're probably a victim of their own success, and that's probably a bit to do with Carney's influence as well.
100%.
But also too. Sorry, Benji. But here's the other, and I'm just trying to find positives for Byron and me. Even though A grade they didn't make it again this year, they'll be playing reserve grade and under 18s in the major semi-finals. So which hasn't happened. I know they've been thereabouts in the 18s, but they certainly haven't really been there in reserve grade. I remember about 3 or 4 seasons ago, I was calling a game at Ballina and I'd be getting a text message and Byron just got flogged 90-0 against Moorlambar, and I'd say it out loud, and then I was in Ballina, of course, so all the punters there were yahooing from what I was saying, what I was supposed to be in private. But here they are, they're playing in the major semi-final. I think they're playing against Tweed Seagulls, so I wouldn't say it's all doom and gloom.
I will say, interestingly enough, when we get to that semi-final yarn, just a minute, that Tweed Seagulls side, that's the closest team I've seen to a first grade team for a reserve grade. I think the NRRRL will need to really look at rethinking that first drink because. Well,
I'm hoping they just get an A. I'm hoping they just get an A grade team for next year because I've always wanted to call the game at Pickardine. So
there you go.
I'm hoping.
Well, you haven't been called up yet to do a cup game.
No, not yet.
I'll put you in contact with my contacts and we'll go up there and do a game together.
I love to.
There you go. There you go. We'll throw that out there to all those people up in Queensland rugby league.
I have to ask my old offsider Nathan Cross. He's been up there doing.
Yeah, Cross has been up there doing a bit. Yeah.
He's up there doing it in SEN. So he's at Queenstown at the moment. So g'day, Crossy.
He'll be watching. So, mate, we want to quickly now just roll through the semi-final series. Sure. Before I do that, for all those people out there in podcast land, the way the competition finished after all of those results, Ballina convincingly top of the table, finishing first, followed by the Coogin Hornets, then closely followed by the Evans Head Bombers, who've had a great back end of their season. We've then followed in with... these guys just turn up year in, year out, but the Balambal Jets fly in under the radar, and they've got some big ins coming back for semi-finals. I'm hearing a lot of ruffling out there around injury players being ready to come back for finals. Then you've got the Morris Brothers Rams, who have been, one for a better term, the undercover brothers.
How good have Morris Brothers been this year?
Yeah, they're the undercover brothers, I call them. They've just done their own thing. No one's given a hoot. Everyone's written them off, even me. And what's happened? They finished in 5th spot into the finals and have the opportunity, I think, to create some upsets in the final series.
Well, last year the team that finished 5th, look what happened. So
well, that's it. They were good to reap the benefits of that one, I can tell you. And then obviously, everyone. This has been. I've looked. It's the talk of Facebook. It's the talk of the local Northern Star. Everyone's asking the question, how did Northern get there? Guess what? I don't really care. We're there, so not my problem. It's everyone else's problem. If you don't like it, just go and suck eggs about it. I don't really care. We're there. How we got there doesn't really matter. You only have to finish. You only have to finish on the points that we finished on with the for and against that we finished. The teams below us, they had an opportunity to do the same thing. So that's your top 6. The only thing I would say, probably from my perspective, is if we've scraped in. Everyone's probably looking what the Northern, how did we do it? I'm not Nostradamus. I did say we could probably make the finals. We have. Now we're there. We just got to try and play some footy. I mean, that's for us. I mean, Dwayne, I know from playing, from coaching, this whole word finals footy, everyone plays to be there. This is a different competition. This is a whole competition outside of the competition we just played. 16 rounds of footy in total. 6 teams finish in the top 6 to play finals footy. And I will say Ballina last year finished in the same position and played one final to get to the host of grand final and then got beaten in the grand final convincingly. So, look, I don't know about you, but would you, based on that top 6, is this anyone's game?
Absolutely. And I think
it's probably the most open competition I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you just look at the win-loss record. Like Ballina, for example, I've said this most recently, that they've had the same finish as what they did last year, which is finish with the minor premiership with a week end to spare. And I said this in commentary with Cam Copeland. I think, what was the game against Morris Brothers? But you look at the for and against, 140 last year. They nearly had a for and against nearly 4 times as big as that last year. So they were belting teams from pillar to post in 23. And not so much this year. I think the 2 losses they had were teams outside of the top 6.
We were one of them.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly. Oh, no, sorry, that's. Yeah, so I just had to. Yes, that's correct. I know. I called it. And the other one, and they drew with Wollongbar as well. So, and that was a game they were losing. They were losing 12-0 in that game under lights at
Tweed Coast Raiders created an upset at
that too. And then you look at Coogin. Coogins been. They've been convinced. They've been good. It's like I think them and Bellamble you can put in the same breath that hot and cold, but like with Coogin, and you mentioned this earlier, Benji, that they basically from nearly 1 to 17 have got a brand new team, and the players that are there are playing out of
a lot of those players played reserve grade grand final last year, though, and they were really good.
Yeah. But then
they've got the biggest human being playing in 6
at 5'8"
ever in the history of the game.
Going by TV
you go
socials.
from 1906 when rugby league morphed out of the rugby union shadow. I don't think there's ever been a bigger number 6 in the entirety of the game. The closest thing I've ever seen to Caleb Zeeble, the bloke that played for 6 for the Raiders.
There's actually Paul from Bar TV texted me because he was asking me about highlights before or just after that Coogin Byron game. He said there was a player. I'll try and find it for you that he reckons is bigger. So, Richie Lee Broy, Richie Lee BROQ. I don't know if you Richie Lee.
But in New South Wales.
Well, he's from Newcastle, so he's probably Newcastle based. I'll have to double check on that one. I'll do some
but
Google searching.
Like Caleb stands 6'6", it'd have to be, but he's
119 kilos, and I can say it like on the dot.
That might be.
That
might be on his scales.
That's from the horse.
He's definitely looking at 120.
I don't know if he's told me.
He's the biggest human being to play the game.
I'm not sure if he meant. Caleb, sorry if that was in confidence, mate, but no, 119.
There you go,
so
Caleb.
120.
Last year it was the motivation of the Gingy. This year you can use the motivation of Big Dwayne, calling you 119 kilos. It wasn't me, Caleb.
Nah.
And Caleb's mum. It wasn't me. She's such a beautiful lady.
Yeah, she is.
So Caleb's mum. Sorry, I forget. I know you introduced yourself when you played. It was actually Dwayne. So when you see Dwayne call a game, and can you please walk up and tell him exactly what you weigh? It might help him in the commentary as well. I'm letting you wear that one, Dwayne.
Already. No, Sue's. Yeah.
But anyway, let's get in. Let's quickly now wrap up around the grounds with these games for this weekend. First round of the finals. So we've got Saturday games. Obviously, for the teams that have finished third, hosting being Bellamble. They finished
fourth.
No, they finished 4th in the competition. So they're on the Saturday. So Bellamble this weekend up against Morris Brothers Rams in first grade. You would agree, and I'm going to agree. I'm not tipping any of these games. We're just going to say that. I'm just going to say that this could go either way.
Yeah.
Bellamble at home are very strong. Yeah. They have got a few big ins this weekend. Blokes that have come back from injury. Brothers have been consistent all year, unaffected by major injury. They've got players in good form. Their investment at the start of the year in their halfback in Shallon Fuller was probably the buy of the season. That being said, I just think it's going to be a tight one.
Yeah, so obviously I won't be making any predictions because they're both games I'm calling over the weekend. But you're right, this could go either way. That said, though, I was just doing a bit of research on the history between Bellamble and Morris Brothers. It's a short history because Bellamble joined the comp in 2020, and they didn't play in 2020 due to the COVID restrictions. But so they haven't really had much of a history. But the history they have had, the home team has always won. The home team has always won. They've played, I think, 5 times, and it's always been the home team. And it's never been close either. So I think if you look back at this year's game, Morris Brothers 50-4. I'm like, and I'm thinking, someone, I couldn't believe that Morris beat Bellamble 50-4, and then the other match they played this year, Bellamble 44-12. And so I'm giving away some of my homework here, which I was supposed to be saving for Saturday afternoon.
You can still call it.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I'll just give you a bit of an idea. So Bilamble have won all three of their home games. Morris have won the other two, and the runners-up in 3 out of 5 of those games have scored exactly 12 points.
Okay.
And the winning team has not scored less than 30 at any time. So, however, I think at least that the margin is going to. I'm not going to say who's going to win, of course, but I reckon at least it will be close. Yeah, it'll be a lot closer than what we've seen throughout the year.
Yeah.
Bank on it.
The following games in that day on the Saturday, you've got I think it's the Bilamble Jets up against who are they playing on the Saturday? I think it's Ballina.
Is this the reserve grade? Or?
Yeah, reserve grade.
I think they're playing at Evans Head.
Okay, sorry, I did you right. So it's Marsh Brothers, and Moolumbar in reserve grade up at Bilamble. And in the under-18s, it's Moolumbar v Tweed Seagulls. Mm-hmm. And ladies league tag, I think it's the Lower Clarence Magpies v Tweed Seagulls. Or is it Tweed Coast Raiders?
Yeah. And it's...
Tweed Seagulls.
Yeah. So, no, Tweed Coast against Lower Clarence on the Saturday. Yep. Coogin Ballina played Evans Head in the ladies league tag first up on the Sunday. Yep. And this is... It's good as how it's panned out. So it's forcing a lot of the supporters. So we're seeing, like, for example, Lower Clarence coming up to Bilamble for their ladies league tag. Coogin going down to Evans Head. Yeah. So it's
a big travel weekend.
A lot of travel. And look, it's going to be the same for me. Bilamble will be a closer drive for me than Saturday, but then back home on the Gold Coast, and then 2 hours down to Evans Head on Sunday. Yeah. So I know all about the travel, but you wouldn't have it any other way. It's like it's a good Sunday drive, and it's going to be good weather too. I think on Saturday at Bilamble it's supposed to be 28 degrees. So hopefully the wet weather we just had up here on the coast is going to be all lined out by Saturday. I'm sure it will.
The other games going into this weekend on the Sunday, obviously first grade, Evans Head versus my team, Northern United. Evans are on a roll, as I said earlier. Look, let's just state the obvious. Northern United finishing the 6th spot, scraping in. We're the underdogs of the whole competition in the last 6. Mm-hmm. That's without a doubt. Yep. There's no pressure on us. We just got to play footy. Evans Head, form usually speaks for itself, and they've got that form. So I'm not saying which way it's going to go. The only thing I will say is that we're going to turn up and try and play some footy. So.
And that's just a given in finals. And I did say in commentary on Sunday that Evans Head, even though if you take 4th spot and any team, and especially the teams that didn't make it, you take 4th spot and twice on Sunday. But I felt for them because they finished 4th 2 years in a row, so that they were banking hopefully for them. Well, they were hoping for themselves, trying to say, to get that 2nd spot. And there was an outside chance. I think I said whip out the calculators, because even if Coogin had won, there was an outside chance they could have still finished 2nd. And that would have meant major semi-final against Ballina, and then potentially a grand final at Stampane Oval. Yeah. But they'll go in 3rd spot. And as I said, they've won 4 straight, looking for their 5th win straight. And I think that if that is to eventuate, that will be... first time in a while. If they've won 5 straight, even winning 4 straight, I think it was the first time since 2021, in 2021.
Definitely going in the weekend favourites without home ground.
It's going to be a great turnout at Evans Head. One of the good places to visit. And
mate, look, from a finals perspective, even from my team's perspective, big crowd, great venue. It'll be a bumper game, and I think. This could go either way. So but
it'll be worth the 2-hour drive on Sunday.
Oh yeah, definitely. What I'd like to do, regardless of the result, is love to catch up with you for a chat either way, mate. Sure. Regardless, win, loss or draw, let's have a chat after it on bar.
Do I have a beer?
And
I don't drink anymore.
If we do get the bickies, you can shout me a beer.
It'd have to be a Heineken Zero.
Yeah, that's okay, mate. Well, I've only been able to drink for the last 2 weeks because I was on medication for 6 months and I'm finished. So I'm good.
I know.
So anyone out there that wants to shout binge a beer on the weekend, just wait till after we play, and if we get the W, then happy to be shouted anything.
If Jeremy Bryant's watching at Evans Head, make sure you stock up some Heineken Zero for me.
There you go. The other games through to that Sunday in reserve grade, you've got Ballamble v Ballina in that game, and then followed by the under-18s game of Ballamble and Lower, and then Ladies League takeover you mentioned earlier, Coogin versus who are they up against? Coogin are playing
Ballina and Ladies League tag.
Ballina and Ladies League tag.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that's the makeup of the finals going into this weekend, and it's going to be a great round of football. Every game in every grade, I would suggest, we all know finals footy, any results could pan up, and some teams that are confident will go through and play well and get the victory, and some teams that are written off could create their pathway through to making something special happen. So, yeah, semi-final football. This is the best time of the year.
It is the best time of the year, and if you follow the Broncos like me, then you really have to relish it.
Okay, this will be your last night on the podcast. Given the fact that you just mentioned that you're a Broncos supporter, you make the most of it tonight, mate, because this is fait accompli now. You've just given up the rights. You're on the giddy ups.
It should have been prior knowledge by Goffy. He knows all too
well. It wasn't prior knowledge.
No,
I didn't.
No, he wasn't. He didn't give you prior knowledge. Oh well.
The only thing I do have to say is, so where are you guys finishing this year? Oh, that's right. You're not playing finals. Sorry.
Can I just say, if you lose a grand final, two in the last 10 years by heartbreaks as it is, you can handle any loss like a champ after that. So. It's like whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, Benji. So I'm all good. It's fine.
That's all good, brother. That's all good. So thanks, mate, for that. That's been an absolute brilliant wrap, I think, on the competition. A brilliant wrap on what happened in that last round, and then also obviously what we're looking forward to this weekend in round one of the semi-final series in the NRRRL. Is absolute bumper of a final series, I think. Yeah. So
each game too. There's no tomorrow for the
mate. It doesn't matter whether you finish third or sixth. If you lose any one of those games, those finals games, that's it. She's sayonara. See you later.
That's exactly right.
So I think everyone's going to be doing the best they can to. It's going to be different because obviously the weather has hampered some training opportunities, I suppose, for the teams that train on council grounds.
Yeah,
we're at the beg and borrow of those councils allowing us to train, but it's been an interesting. It's going to be an interesting build-up.
It's the same up here on the Gold Coast too. BNG, even Runaway Bay Leagues Club, which is about 5 minutes from where I am. Leagues Club and all, they've I think they haven't even had training either. So
that's all right.
It's pretty much even. Doesn't matter how good your drainage is. I think every ground's just been water underfoot.
Okay,
this part of the world.
Yeah, well, that's all good, and that wrap's been absolutely brilliant, as I said. So thanks for all your input there, Dwayne, and all your homework and research.
Pleasure.
Mate.
Pleasure.
We're going to get on to my favourite segment of the whole of podcasting worlds, which is Controversy Corner. Welcome back. Here we go. Straight into it. So look, I'll throw to you in a minute, Dwayne, but my first piece of controversy is it's just come out. I have to call it for what it is. Where will Dwayne and Goffy set up at Evans Head this weekend? Will they have scaffolding or not? Will they have a stand that's away from the grandstand? I know in rugby league world we're probably going, well, who really cares? Well, we need to care because without the call, we've got nothing really to go off the game other than watching a blank screen and blokes just out there running around and a referee that's hooked up to a mic. So the scaffolding issues, where are we at with that, guys?
Oh, well, I'll leave that one to your producer there. He's looking after it, but no, it'll get sorted. Because you look at how I pretty much bring my office with me to all the games. I don't know anyone that has seen me. It's like this screen that we're talking on now, that comes with me in the back of my car, as well as a Bunnings table and all these other gizmos. So it's pretty much a mobile commentary box that you see. So hence why we are having the chats of scaffolding, no scaffolding. But look, wherever we're set up on Sunday, it's going to be great. So, and
for
we focus on the
those supporters out there too. Please, like the people like Dwayne and Goffey and the camera people and all that, like walk up and introduce yourself to them, get to know them. Obviously, our podcast viewers tonight from all around the NRRRL, all around New South Wales country, all over Bar TV land. Overseas in New Zealand and England, we know we're being watched over there. So, look, if you are at any of these games on the weekend and you see Dwayne, walk up, say hello, and have a bit of a chat. I think we're all up for that. It's a bit of fun and a bit of games, and we love it as well. And I know when I had commentary last year down at Ballina, the grand final day, we were inundated with people coming up, and, having a yak and having a yarn. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Mate, the next piece of controversy. Up until yesterday, I was really worried, and it's the weather. You've just mentioned that the game on the weekend, I was a bit worried because I'm thinking, well, ground closures, what happens? What do the NRRRL do? Do they move the games? Do they leave the games on the grounds that realistically have a bit of rain on them this year and they've been cancelled? So.
Well, that's something that's above our pay grade, Benji. But then again, I have had the same anxieties and thoughts myself, like as we all have throughout the course of the season. And I said it during the game on Sunday that Dan at Lismore, that how ironic that the catch-up game we're playing, we've had more rain on that particular day than what we would have if we played the original round 5 game. So it's a tricky one. Because we've already had to extend the season by a week, and players have
they have to play. They
have to play somehow. So, but then again, let's look at the two grounds, Evans Head and Blamble. They've earned the right for that home final. But then it's a tricky one. I'd hate to have that decision made, but then again,
I'm hearing the weather gods will prevail, and
it's 27 degrees on Saturday. That's true, so I'm sure we'll be fine.
We didn't get as much rain as was expected today, and we're not going to get.
I think we should be okay
tomorrow, and then obviously Saturday's 2%.
I think we're done with the rain.
We're done, and I think we'll get on. The grounds might be a little bit sticky, a bit gluggy, but that being said, both those teams have definitely earned the right, mate, and they deserve their opportunity.
But that said, though, even above the NRRRL, we're dealing with council. So, and we could have a whole podcast on decisions of council, which I don't even want to
let's not. Goffey will tell you, if there's one thing you don't mention to me on this podcast, it's council. Let's just not have that conversation.
Me too.
No disrespect. The only thing I can say is thank God we're coming up to an election year with councils, because we probably need a change.
We just had ours up in... Oh, well, because I'm in Queensland, we just had ours in March. We've got the state election in October, though. So, No, Tom Tate romped it in March, so at least I don't have to think about elections or local ones for another 4 years. So.
The biggest piece of controversy tonight.
Yes.
Did Les really have technical issues?
No.
Let's be honest.
No.
Well, I did.
Don't you back him up, otherwise this definitely will be your last podcast.
I did. No. I did offer to help. Say Les with
his IT issues.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what?
A little bit
the
of
reason
IT,
I'm asking the question is pretty simple, and I think it's a fair question to ask. For you people out there in podcast land that have got young kids, you're going to send your kids to the school that he works at?
Yes.
God, Jesus, help us. It can't even fix a computer. Like, do they teach IT when you're a school teacher? Do you get all that? Does that happen, Goffey? Do you know?
No.
I'm not a school teacher.
They did when I was at school. My favourite teacher.
So Les, whatever happens, Foxy, we think you're pulling a furphy, and if that's to be shown up at some point, we'll we'll be calling you out at the next podcast. So we think it's a fair.
That said, Benji, how many episodes have you done together now? And he's not bailed on you before, has he?
This is the first.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
So
I'm actually enjoying myself tonight because we're getting a different type of podcast. We're getting a very detailed knowledge of the game and even the comment you made earlier about the Marsh Brothers Balamble. I mean, if I asked Les to do that, it'd take him the whole podcast year to come back with that whole thing. And you've done it.
He's
in
a busy
one
man,
podcast,
though.
So
He's a busy man.
there you go. So, mate, I don't know whether it's controversy. It's probably it's probably controversial from this point. The 2-hour turnaround between
he'll be back. The
2-hour turnaround between getting notified to come and do the podcast to now. How are you coping?
Yeah, great. Yeah. Well, as I said, back in the COVID years, we did what you guys did every Wednesday, and then it was only just time constraints that we're not continuing it any further. And plus the fellas have sort of moved on. I said Nathan Crosser was my right hand man. He's now doing great things. As I said, it's funny to know that you're a Queenslander too, Benji. So
I am.
I'm trying to redeem myself here with the Broncos.
I am a very much. I mean, from an Origin perspective, I mean, I'm not a Bronco. Do you actually want? Everyone should know now. I'm a fins up man. Yeah, fins up,
pipe
baby.
Down, Goffy. Pipe down, Goffy.
Yeah, look, we share. We do share at points the same home venue of
Suncorp. I'll show you something though, Benji.
Here we go.
You get one of these things. I'm going to show it right there. That's one of those. They only give you those if you're born in a Queensland hospital.
What are they?
My grandfather was.
Yeah. So Bundy.
Hence why I'm a Queenslander.
So you got to earn one of these. But that, I mean,
well, my wife, she's happily born up in Queensland's women's hospital up there in Brisbane, or Brisbane's women's hospital.
Yeah.
She's a.
So
I'm a second generation Queenslander through the birth of my grandfather, who born up in Queensland. So I'm a proud descendant Queenslander. And I hold that high and loud and proud. And for me, there's no better team to support come Origin time.
Yeah, especially
regardless
the
of what
team,
Duffy says.
With Nathan Cross as 2IC's coach, so that's his second year doing that. And as I said, but I was about to also say too, Benji, that during a call, I think it would have been last year, I had Jackson Mawida in the box, and he goes, he's a Queenslander too, but he was born in Tweed Ads, and I said, how did you get ripped off?
God.
So it's like, I always say, mate, like Tugan's only up the road. And but no, it's not the best of years with the men, but we'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be back.
I think have I redeemed myself for my Broncos following?
Yeah, you have now, mate. You definitely have. I'll definitely be making a call to Billy after this podcast and let him know that if we next year have the opportunity, we'd love to get up there in the box with him as well and be in the background, and if we luck out a chance, we might take the podcast up to the Origin next year and sit outside and do a bit of a podcast outside. We'll see what Goffy's up to.
I'll get in touch with Crossy, see if if I can pull some strings, and at least for the women's game.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I'd love that.
Yeah. We'll see what he can do.
Especially now that I've been announced as the Northern Rivers Titans women's coach for 2025.
Good job.
Backing it up, so I'm going to enjoy that. I love coaching those ladies last year. I think this year's going to be even bigger and better. So, what we want to get on to now, mate, is our next segment. So, unless you or Goffy have any other controversy that we could probably bring up, no. Goffy, just so you're aware, Goffy does not bring up controversy anymore. He put his foot in it last year. He had foot in mouth disease. And then he was contacted. He was contacted by another local coach in the competition and told pretty clearly that he wasn't getting the sack.
Well, it's why Goffy is not on the field for shoots that we're at these days, because I always tell the guys at Bar TV that we could have an after hours version of just called Hot Mic Goffy. So
I'll tell you what. I should send you the bloopers from last year's knockout.
we barred him from match of the rounds because we need to have an adults only advisory if he's just shooting with his camera. So I'm sure it'd be entertaining nevertheless, but no controversy from me.
Nah, thanks for that, mate. Really appreciate it. We want to move on now to the next segment. Goffy, that's enough from you. You've no controversy. He's still, can you hear him in the background? But anyway, let's move on. We're going to get on to the next segment of this wonderful podcast, which is called The What Evs. Welcome back. Here we are, whatevs. My whatevs at the moment, and I'm just going to, I don't really, Dwayne, you know me by now. Goffy knows me 100% by now. Viewing audience know me, and I don't really care what people think about this, but I just want to, my whatevs moment is to all you whingers about Northern getting into the finals. Come and speak to our players. Come and speak to the coaching staff. At the end of the day, we haven't done anything wrong. We've played football all year. We finished on the points as everyone else, and we lucked out, And, mate, every now and then you need a bit of luck. And we got it this year, and the rugby league gods looked down on me and said, Benji, we're going to give you another crack. And that's exactly what they did. And for the whingers out there that were a lot, we're there. And if you don't like it, bad luck. We're there and we're going to give it our best shot, and people have already written us off, and there's no better way to prepare for a semi-final and for a final series than being written off even before you've been given a chance to breathe. But anyway, as I said, my big shout out to all the whingers. Tough shit. We're there. My other whatevs moment. I mentioned it earlier. Every piece of media that I picked up from last Thursday through to Saturday was about this joint slaying game that was going to be happening up at Mullumbimby. I didn't have the pleasure to watch it, neither did you.
No.
There was a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk about what was going to happen and how they were going to win and all that sort of 20-4.
Yeah, there was no points scored for the first 30 minutes because I had 3 different browsers going. It was just on my phone, and I had to just double check my phone was working, because it was like 0-0. So we had the game of AFL down at Yamba, and that was a game of soccer at Mullum, so to speak. So it must have been really, really tough. As I said, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but
7 or 8 minutes into the second half, it was 4-4.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And then obviously it was actually the last in that game. It was actually the last 15 minutes where Coogin decided.
Coogin just drowned, and they did the same thing to Byron. They did the same, but it was sort of a bit different when they were playing Byron. They scored 10 points in the first 3 minutes, and then Byron brought it back to 10-all, and then it was only 6 points at half time. And that's what Coogin does. They drain teams. And
they're physically
drain their battery.
They're physically strong.
How they won the grand final last year.
They're a big unit of a team, and they can physically drain you. Your defensive efforts every time you play Coogin have to be better than what they are in any other game because you've got to manage big bodies.
That's exactly right, and it just reminds me of last year's grand final. They weren't even leading at half time, but they just put on 18 unanswered points by draining.
Well, I remember I'll be honest with you, me and you last year sitting in that commentary box. How exciting was that last 20 minutes?
Oh, mate,
we could not believe the display that Coogin put on in that last 20 minutes of last year's grand final. Just like, what the?
Exactly.
Where did they come from? Ballina, all by that first try they scored in the first
Tim Cassidy's
7 or 8 minutes. The big centre that's from Chugan scored out wide. And from that point I thought, oh, God, this could be Ballina's day, and then that was it. Lights went out at Ballina, and Coogin said, "Here we are, guys, and we're going to turn up, and we're going to show up, and we're going to, give you guys one of the toughest games you've ever had, mate." They come by the massive, very convincing.
Yeah, and that was Coogin had some really tough games on the road too. As I said, you called that one with me at Balamble when Batiste kicked 17-16. And then you guys played them in week 2, and so that Coogin were out in front for a good stretch of that game, and then Northern brought it back to within about 8 points with about 20 to go, and then week one, I think the same sort of thing happened against Evans Head. So, and then the week, not even just to get into the finals, they had to come back from 13-0 down against the Tweed Coast Raiders, and so that would have, as I said, if anyone from Hollywood is what a rugby league lover, like NRRRL at that, you could make a movie from that past 5 weeks.
Oh, you could.
And, I mean, at very least a documentary. And, I would like to see something happen with that, because no team has ever, from 5th spot, even made a grand final, let alone win it. I think there was a couple. Byron, I think in 2014, made it from 4th. And I also said, getting away from Coogin, I did say in last Sunday's game too that it's the first time this has happened in a long time too, where obviously Norman's playing Evans Head the week before a final where you play him again.
Yeah.
There's only one time that I've ever seen that happen. That was Byron Casino in 2014, and Casino thrashed Byron at QE2 Park, only for Byron to win the following week by 8. So, as I said, I'm not tipping what's going to happen on Sunday, but you take that 38-12 scoreline at your peril. It could be different, it could be the same, but that's just how this competition rolls. It's like how one result, and even with the Broncos and Storm last year, it was Broncos won 20-0 in week 1, but Broncos got beat 40-36 or something.
Going to the finals.
Different teams, but that's you can't just say one result's the same as the other. So, but bring it on. It's going to be a great final.
It's going to be a great weekend, mate. It's been an absolute brilliant season. I think the NRRRL, governing bodies needs to take their hats off. It's been a disruptive, but they've gotten through the season. Obviously, they've had disruptiveness from the referees, numbers dropping, and they've had the weather. They've had a whole range of different. They've had more people go to the judiciary this year than they ever had in a long time. But they're stamped down on a few things, and they've come out the other end of it, and now they're going to go into a final series that's, I think, mouth-watering. And at this stage, anyone from 6 to 1 could win a competition, which is great in any grade. In every grade that's playing, anyone from 1 to 6 could win this competition.
And you don't see that in a lot of the other competitions.
No, you don't see that in a lot of other competitions. So,
Yeah.
That's the way it is at the moment, mate. But the last thing I want to cover off is just that really quick conversation we had at the start, which is this is the official last year of the NRRRL before they morph into Rugby League Northern Rivers. I think we spoke about that about 4 podcasts ago, and we made the announcements. I've done some research since then. So apparently the Rugby League Northern Rivers board will be made up of a vote, and there'll be a membership made up of the clubs that vote people onto the Rugby League Northern Rivers board or body. But there will be the way the voting will work is actually split between Group 1, Group 18. The numbers will come from those 2 competitions, and you'll be able to vote those people forward to be on Rugby League Northern Rivers. The way that it then plays out, obviously, below that, you've got Rugby League Northern Rivers, you'll have a match committee, you'll have, obviously, the referees body that is associated with the general running of officiating the competition. But this is a bigger flow-on effect too, because this now flows into pathways programs for New South Wales Rugby League. And being a border competition, as being the Tweed teams, there is that extra flow-on effect up into the Queensland Cup. So it's going to be an interesting off-season. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out in relation to who gets onto these new bodies. And then once those new bodies are in place, it'll be interesting to see what their thoughts and beliefs are of this. The structure of the current NRRRL competition, whether it's, 16
rounds.
13, 16 rounds, but at the moment there's 13 teams. With Tweed Seagulls going into the first grade competition next year, because that's what their reasoning for coming in at reserve grade, that they would progress to first grade next year. That's going to give no buys, an even competition,
Good.
Which is good. But the other thing it's going to do is it'll be interesting to see what sort of draw they come up with. Whether you know as well as I do, they talk around the North and South competitions, play each other once, and then they all come together and everyone plays a switch round. And then you get to a final series that's actually broken up into North and South, with then the two winners of that competition meeting in a super grand final. There's a lot of things to be discussed.
I don't know if we'd go as far as that. I think,
that's what it's been. I've seen the brief.
So is that?
I've seen the brief.
Exactly what it's. Is that exactly what is planned?
Yeah, there's actually a brief that's been put out to all the clubs.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say I was going to say whatever they've decided. It sounds like they've already decided that, as long as it's simple. It's simple. So the worst thing you have to do is have to think who's going to play where and because
they've got to make it work either way. There's 14 or what is it?
But the fact.
There's 16 rounds. 16 rounds, and they've got a competition now that's an even competition with no buys.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, because even just and I probably could have mentioned this for Controversy Corner, but the amount of buys that teams get is not the same amount across the board. They did the flip around before Tweed come in.
Right. Before Tweed come in, you just an example. This year, for my club, Northern might have gotten one buy.
That's what I didn't know.
But the following year, you get two buys.
I didn't.
So that's going to be taken right out of the competitions,
which is great,
because you've got an even competition now where there's no buy rounds. You can't have Splendor next year because there is no Splendor. So will it be a flow-on, and the June long weekend is the only weekend off, which is what it normally would be outside of the Splendor weekend, because the Splendor weekend's only a new thing too. It was the last 2 years of Splendor where they actually introduced that. So that's gone now. So obviously there's a rethink in that space as well.
So, did they say when they might kick off round one? Is it going to be around the same time?
They haven't gone that far, mate. That's. I think we just got to get through this season, and then all that stuff will play out. What I might do too, because I'm abreast of what's going on, is I'll keep you posted, and we might come back for one of our first podcasts for the year next year. We may get you to come back in with myself and Foxy, and we'll actually unpack with the viewing audience what their competition, because at the end of the day, let's be real. Yes, it's the clubs that play in the competition, but this game belongs to the supporters of every club.
Absolutely.
They don't come through the gates to pay through those gates. The clubs don't survive. Sponsorship is hard enough, so you're relying on people coming through your gates. You make the game as entertaining as what you can to get the best, follow through with the gate and then your canteens, and that keeps our game alive. So it's going to be interesting to see what those concepts are. We'll get a chance. We might even get, not just yourself, but we might even get someone to come in, whoever gets elected as the head of that body, to come through, and we'll get Goffey to come in as well.
Sounds great.
So we will get you back. There you go. You thought this was going to be a one-off, but rethink that first drink, brother. We'll get you back for another yarn. But that's it. So that's just a little brief beyond what we've already told about the Rugby League Northern Rivers morph out from the NRRRL post 2024. So mate, that's just a bit of a wrap up of that. Getting into this before we finish. Very brief. We want to be very brief. This segment's going to be called Get to Know Dwayne. Dwayne, give us a bit of an insight, mate. Rugby League. Did you ever play the game, officiate the game, or have you just always been a game caller?
So I had the same upbringing as just about anyone that's playing the game right now, obviously from a different era, because I'm nearly 40, so showing my age a bit. But I was going to say that earlier. Yeah. Well, so I played juniors. Firstly, I played RRRL for Ballina Sea Horses. That was my first taste of footy. Played that for a few years before playing for Byron Bay, Red Devils for a few years. I never played seniors, but and you say officiating. That's where I said to you last year.
That's where I first met you.
When I first met. Yeah, so we met from another life. So I did a bit of refereeing for about 10 years or so.
In the juniors,
yeah.
I remember.
Around Ballina, Lennox Head. Then I sort of went away for a while, and so my love for rugby league's also there. But I guess what you're trying to also say from a commentary standpoint too. So to put a bit of an insight into it, it's sort of going to tell you two tales. That was the first one, how I got into rugby league, same as everyone else. But from a broadcasting standpoint, that my journey started about 10 years ago, because my other love is heavy metal music, which Metallica shirt you can probably see. Yeah. So I first started with Andrew Hogue, who used to do Full Metal Racket on Triple J, and he no longer with Triple J, hasn't been for a while, but he has his own online radio show, and it was pay to play to start with, and so I jumped in took the offer from him, did about 12 shows with him. That was my first time in front of a microphone, and geez, it's like, as I said, I get nervous for every game, but I just froze on the microphone then. But it's because of him, Andrew Hogue, that I'm even sitting here talking to you, doing commentary, because in between, it wasn't just being on his shows, but also he would give me pointers on how to sit in front of a microphone, when to break, when to how to use my words, dun 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 dun. So that was my first time being on a microphone. So that was 2015-16. My first game was 2018. The stars aligned on that one. So a week before I even got, there was a post on Facebook from I think it was from Country Rugby League for the country championships, and they were looking for callers. And I recently just broke up with my now ex at the time. So
keep going. All good.
So it just happened. So because I'd be spending my weekends with her, but then we broke up, and I'm thinking, okay, so how's my life going to unfold now? And then this opportunity comes up, and so that was only for like 3 or 4 rounds, and then another couple of senior games came up, and I wasn't expecting to do more than to say that. And then it was the 2017 Grand Final, Ballina Coogin, and I was watching a lot of stuff on Bar TV, a lot of NPL soccer, bit of the Newcastle Rugby League, and I thought, how good would this be if this Grand Final was streamed by Bar TV? And so tried to send a few emails out, and they all just bounced back. And then I traced Tanya Booth's email, and here we are. So the rest.
Her fault.
Yeah, it's her fault. Yeah, her fault. She got me in touch with the
Tanya,
and
what have you created?
Later, 6 years, here we are. So, and what a ride it's been so far, and it's still going.
Good,
and had you ever told me that in 2018 or even 2016 when I was doing the heavy metal stuff, I would have thought, because heavy metal only takes you so far in this country. We still got festivals, which the Blues Fest don't, but it's just I still can't believe
there's
that
one
we're
more
still
Blues Fest. I think they're finishing off with a bang.
Yeah, it's event. Yeah, and so it's been quite a surreal journey, from obviously having the sporting side of things, but also the broadcast side of things. And if you had told me I would have caught 300 games of football and counting, and about to do I think it's my 6th or 7th final series for the NRRRL, and you had told me that 10 years ago, nah.
So this weekend you're up at Balambal, and then you're back down to Evans. So, mate, thanks for that very brief insight.
What size are these shirts?
Sorry?
What size are these shirts?
What size? Oh, here you go. You're going to get some merch.
Lovely.
We're going to give you some merch for coming on tonight.
Lovely.
What size shirt? We'll get you a pink one.
Well, about a year ago, probably large, but I did also mention though I'm off the booze, so that was about 7 months now, so I've lost about nearly 10 kilos of weight. So I'm down to a meat. I'm down to a meat.
Did you just hear that?
He's lost weight.
No, yeah, he's got off the booze, mate.
Well, he can shout us,
Well, we're always up for a shout, mate. If you don't drink, we will.
We'll shout. You can shout us all day.
Yeah, well, that's not how it works. But
I'll shout you with no alcohol.
So this weekend, mate, going back to you, this weekend you're up at Balambal on Sunday, calling the first grade game up there. Then you're down at Evans on Sunday, calling the first grade game down there. I wish I could get in the commentary box, but I've got a coach on Sunday. But you probably have a guest up there with you on.
Yeah, I've got the reliable Wade Kelly. He's got a few hats as of late, so he'll be there with me Saturday.
Yeah, there you go.
And
we'll see how we're going. I mean, I'll keep my. I'm hoping to have my grand final day booked out, and if I am, mate, I'm happy to have a chat with you throughout the day or maybe that afternoon. And people are probably thinking, Benji, whatever. Here he goes again. He's talking his team up. No, but if I am busy, I'll still pop my head in. But if not, mate, hook me up. I reckon everyone would love to hear the Gingy and the Fox grand final with you again. So we're always up for a hit if you haven't got anybody else.
Yeah, we'll see what happens after this weekend. But even at very least, you and Les did a great job in the 18s reserve grade last year, and so at very least we'll make that happen again because that was so entertaining, especially that Lady League Tag Grand Final. That was that was a highlight.
Yeah, it was actually pretty good, that one. Pretty close to that one. But we'll have a. I'm hoping to have a team playing in the grand final as well.
Yeah, of course.
So
Of course.
We'll see how we go with that. And
cross the bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, mate, we will. We'll have that chat then. But mate, first and foremost for me, thank you so much for taking up the time, coming in and last 2 hours before the podcast started. You get a phone call.
2 hours. We nearly cracked 2 hours.
But you knew I was inviting you on. I didn't say when, but I said I was inviting you on the podcast.
There you go, mate. Yeah. So you finally got your call up. We'll get you back for many more, hopefully between now and we might even get one in between now and grand final day, and then we'll definitely be hitting you up next year. So thanks a lot, very much appreciated. Thanks for your time, and for all the viewing audience out there, round of applause for the Dwayne. Well done, brother. And for all the viewing audience out there again, thank you so much for giving up your time and watching the podcast tonight. And I miss my big buddy, and he'll be back here next week. Definitely ready to go with no IT issues, and we'll definitely be moving forward on the podcast. So stay tuned. Thanks a lot, everybody. It's been a great pleasure, and we'll see you all next week.